Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da-ba-ba. All right. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. And Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101. Promoter 101.
This is Lance Roberts with United Talent Agency. I'm on Promoter 101.
Hello, friends, and welcome to the Promoter 101 podcast. Joining us now, W. Luke Pierce, just in time to remind you to call your mother.
It's Monday. Never a bad time to call your mother. And later on in this podcast, we're going to be featuring the Round Room's founder, Stephen Shaw.
Mr. Shaw, please, a little respect.
Looking forward to that interview later in the podcast. Yeah, we got some other stuff going on too, right?
From AEG Presents, SVP of Global Touring, Rich Schaefer. Now, we've rumored to have Rich before, but we've got it. He's right here on Promoter 101 this week, we promise.
And off we go. Episode 162 of Promoter 101 starts now.
This is Dave Shapiro,
Mike Mills,
Sam Hunt, Joey Scolari,
Rich Best,
Tim Sweetwood,
Andy Levitt,
Sarah Beasley,
Jared Paul,
Bobby Clay,
John Phillips,
Greg Pomley,
Harvey Cohen,
Rich Schaefer.
This is Eric Mayers, and I am live
on Promoter 101.
So I guess the story has leaked because, I leaked it. The end of the podcast is coming up fast. That's right. But you can join us for the final interview in person as we do it live from the JW Marriott in Nashville, Tennessee, Music City at the IEBA conference for the keynote.
That's right. We're set to do our final interview and our last live podcast recording from the International Entertainment Buyers Association conference as the keynote session, Dan. I can't believe they're giving us the big spot on that stage. That's going to be taking place this October, 27th to the 29th at the JW Marriott here in Nashville. We look forward to wrapping this up with so many of our friends in attendance. It's going to be a very special podcast for Dan and I, and we are working very hard to ensure it will be our best yet. So get yourselves registered, ieba.org. Get registered for that conference. It is sold out the past couple of years, Dan, and we don't expect anything different this year.
No, especially when it gets out who our guest is, but I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. You're going to have to earn that, folks, but we're going big for the last one. Let me just say that.
Going big.
I don't want to be Babe Ruth and point into the stands or nothing, but look up there, y'all.
Look up.
If you got something you want to talk to us about or just simply share something, all you got to do is email us at steiny@promoter101.net. We're happy to help you day or night. Maybe you want to play 3 questions. Maybe you got a great war story that needs to be shared. Maybe you want to be a guest before the podcast is over. Hey, drop us a note and say, hey, pay attention to me, schmucks.
Let us know. And if you don't like the email, keep up on social media. We're on the conversation all the time. Jason Bernstein, shout out, giving some legal advice on there on our previous podcast. So there's many more things being said online, Dan. You can join us on Twitter. I'm at W. Luke Pierce. Dan's at The Jew. The show is Promoter 101. Check it out.
Now, Jason Bernstein did shout us out on Twitter and gave us an answer, but he ruled against you, from my understanding.
Apparently what I said was indeed slanderous, but... Or no, wait, it was. I honestly, Dan, I'd have to go back and revisit that episode to remember exactly even what I said. But apparently I was indeed wrong.
I just remember the part where it was you were wrong. I don't exactly remember what you were wrong about, but it was like he ruled against you is what I saw there.
He did rule against me, Dan, and he's a much smarter guy than I, so I got to respect and trust whatever he's saying from a legal standpoint, although I have not retained him for counsel yet. Maybe we should be, Dan.
I think we better just keep taking his volunteer stuff because Jay pays for him. We just get the free stuff on the internet, which is great.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. We are on Instagram at Steiny@Promoter101. Luke is W. Luke Pierce, and I am Dan Presents.
That's right. We're all over everywhere else on the internet. You know the drill. Facebook at Promoter 101 and on the World Wide Web at Promoter101.com. Plus now, Dan, the cool kids found us on LinkedIn. Join us there.
These alleged cool kids. Who are these cool kids?
They're on LinkedIn, Dan. They're networking.
Networking.
They're networking.
They call it networking. It's got the word work in it, but they're really just screwing off on Facebook and LinkedIn while they should be working.
That's how that goes?
That's how that goes.
Hi, my name is Jay Williams from WME, and you're listening to Promoter 101.
Dan, my favorite time of the week is we get to say all these amazing names and wish some of our friends a very happy birthday for those celebrating their birthday for the week of June 24th to the 30th, 2019.
Tuesday, June 24th, Eric Blocky, the great Mark David from the beautiful land of the UK, and Jason Comfort.
On Wednesday, the 25th, we are wishing a happy birthday to Kevin Yulstad and Buck Williams.
Thursday, 6/26, Mark Lamblett and Paul Bassman, the insurance salesman himself that seems like he should be fishing anytime you say his name. But he used to be the king of metal as a manager back in the day, and now rocking the insurance game. Happy birthday, Paul.
On the 27th, we're wishing a happy birthday to Dolph Ramser and Atlantic Records, Harlan Fry.
Right into Saturday on the 28th, the king of electronic music, Mr. Lee Anderson. Happy fucking birthday, dude.
And on Sunday the 29th, saying a happy birthday out there to John Scott.
Monday, 6:30, the king of passes, backstage man himself. He invented the world of the die-cut all-access pass. Seth Sheck, as well as Tristan Law and Alex White, the guy who knows how to do data better than anyone in the world. Big data man himself, Alex White.
Wonderful wishes to everyone we just said on your birthday from all of us here at Promoter101.net.
It's always great when we get to kiss all those asses that quickly. We just rolling out the ass kissing this week on birthdays, Luke. Knocking it out.
This is Julia Frank from Wizard Promotions in Germany, and we're on Promoter 101.
Promoter 101 Flashbacks.
Episode 21.
Tom Windish.
There was a moment in the Windish career where you started the independent agency, and it was basically you booking shows on your own to it became a much bigger agency. What were the pieces that happened that really turned that agency from a small agency to mid-size to a larger independent?
I wouldn't call it a moment. I'd call it a 10-year transformation or something. I don't have like a business school background. The whole plan was a napkin or just in my head. We hired Brad Owen to book DJs because Sam Hunt and I were like, man, we got a lot of DJs now. We should get someone else to focus on that. Yeah, good idea. Okay. Who should we get? We had a list of 3 people or something. Let's go talk to that guy, Brad, that we really like, who we've been doing really cool stuff with. And he'd been there 6 or 7 years. Maybe he'd want to do it. Maybe he doesn't want to be in the club until 4 o'clock in the morning, 2 or 3 nights a week anymore. I don't know. Who knows? No offense to Joe Shanahan,
Right.
We love him too. But a lot of the growth is just kind of common sense. Boy, we're booking a lot of shows. We're really, really busy operating at 100% here. We should bring someone else in to help us book. Who should that be? And some things fell on our doorstep, like Amy Davidman. She had been an assistant at Bowery and Frank Riley's assistant for years, and I knew her for a long time. She called me up I'm moving to Chicago. My partner is got graduate thing there, and I can't work at High Road anymore. Do you got anything for me? And we're like, want to be an agent? And she's like, sounds good to me. And, she picked up some of the bandwidth that we had plenty of.
And clearly coming from High Road and Bowery, she knew the genre that you guys were in.
Yeah, she really knew what she was doing. She actually brought a necessary skill set to us, or just additional experience that we didn't have. She kind of focused more in performing arts center world, not exclusively, but, I had signed this band Pink Martini, and Amy kind of took that and ran with it in ways that I found challenging. Again,
and they've done really great in the performing arts subscription series world.
They've done great. Yeah, they've been with us for a really long time, and it's been a really great client for us. That was another one where I was having a bandwidth issue, having relationships with all these people that book performing arts centers all over the North America was challenging.
Yeah, it's a different world.
And Amy did a really great job dealing with that.
And you guys also brought Todd Walker in to develop that side of the business, right?
Yeah, we brought Todd in. I remember going to APAP one year, and there was a table with a ton of people standing around it, and they were all waiting to talk to Todd. And I was like, who's that guy?
He's the guy.
Oh, that's Todd Walker, And I'm like, well, I need to know that guy.
Best sweater vest in the business.
Yeah, he's got a collection.
Okay, actually, the synergy of him coming in puts Seth Molaski and Kevin Kastrup and Todd all on the same team, which is dollar for dollar got to be the best arts booking department in the country.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I feel good about it. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited about our whole group of agents and people and extra services. We love developing artists. We've got a really great roster. No one's fighting with each other. There's no issues. We're just let's go. And we've been going from day one. This is really great. We love you guys. What can we do together? And I think people wake up or come into the office every day thinking that. It's going really well.
Hey, it's Adam Weiser from AEG Presents Global Touring. You're listening to Promoter 101.
It's time to turn the tables. It's time to turn the tables.
Kicking off our interviews on F162 or Promoter 101, we're going to kick it up first. We've got a special Turn the Tables from AEG Presents SVP of Global Touring, Mr. Rich Schaefer.
Just giving you a chance to turn the tables on me after I drilled you for an hour.
Yeah, so you obviously asked a lot of questions, and we sit across from each other at this interview and professionally, I suppose. So my question is, why did you choose to go to Live Nation, and did you have an AEG conversation? And if so, why did you choose Live Nation over AEG?
I met with Jay, I met with Rue, and I met with actually a couple of other people that I thought could possibly be good partners. And I really felt like Live Nation's system was one that was the most exciting with their resources for our acts, the possibility of growing into the amphitheaters, the global possibilities for us. Really just seemed like it was a natural fit. They didn't have a big part of the business that we did. We were new content to them. Felt like that we were really a piece that made sense and that was going to be really well valued there. And Jay was certainly super welcoming, and it was a great conversation. Gave a great pitch. It was a fun meeting. And, I was stoked for his time, but it definitely just seemed like organically that's where we fit.
So basically, Mueller fucked it up.
I never had a conversation with Mueller.
I'm just kidding.
I never had a conversation with you.
Appreciate the answer.
So excited to share the full interview with Rich Schaefer on episode 163 of Promoter 101. It's like 2.5 years in the making, but we got it in the can and we're bringing it to you next week. Rich Schaefer right here on Promoter 101.
Steve Lassiter, head of Nashville APA, and I'm on Promoter 101.
Hey, it is time for the unveiling of the Promoter 101 Badass of the Week, the 26th week in 2019. Dan, who will it be this week?
Well, we're heading to a land down under to salute the king of all Australian promoters, Michael Chugg. He is the first name you think of when you think of Australian concert promoters. Therefore, he is totally deserving of being the badass of the week, Michael Chugg.
I can't argue with that at all. Chuggy is indeed a legend down under, a legend worldwide, quite frankly, from all of his days of promoting concerts and festivals and breaking so many things over there. Congrats goes out to you, Chuggy. Promoter 101's Badass of the Week.
Hey, it's Rich Best with Live Nation Los Angeles, and I'm on Promoter 101.
In our featured interview this week, we are excited to welcome back to the podcast the founder of the Round Room, Stephen Shaw.
Mr. Shaw, please.
Please, Mr. Shaw.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So your hat says Round Room, and that's the name of your company. Did you find the hat and decide, I'm going to name a company that?
No, the name of the company took a long time to get to. Lying in bed with my wife one night, I think I was searching for the name and finally just sort of sprung to me, and I'm never really looked back.
So you're Canadian?
Yep.
And you found your way into the music industry, live entertainment business, as so many of the biggest people in our industry before you.
Yes, of course. I started when I was quite young. High school, I was a stagehand. So I worked for NASCO in Toronto. It was my first sort of entrance into the live entertainment business. $14 an hour, worked at Sky Dome, worked at Molson Amphitheater, now Budweiser Stage, and, worked as like a local hand.
Okay, and how did you get in business with Michael Cole? Because that's really the springboard, right?
That was definitely the springboard. So throughout high school, my best friend, and still to this day, one of my best friends in the world is Jake Cole, who's Michael's oldest son. We were great buddies for years and years, and in 2002, Michael was in the midst of Licks Tour, Rolling Stones Licks Tour. And in the 2003 section, the Europe Tour, Michael came and asked a few of Jake's friends, people, they hired 5 young kids out of college to come to the tour and work as merchandisers, reporting in through Norman Perry and working for Anthill Trading, selling merchandise and slinging cotton.
Slinging cotton.
Yeah, so we started in Munich, June 2003. I have no earthly idea what I'm doing on tour. I arrive, I'm standing there, and the first meeting I have is with Norman Perry. And Norman Perry brings me into this office, and we sit down and have this chat. And Norman is, I'm sure you've met Norman before, but Norman is a hard guy when you first meet him. He doesn't have the friendliest demeanor, as you say. Now, Norman ends up being one of the most influential people in my life for the next 20 years, but at that time, he told me the ins and outs of what I'm doing on the road for the Rolling Stones, working on the merchandise side. I think what we ended up doing was we walked out of the office, we're standing on the loading dock of the Olympia Arena in Munich, and I think I got very close to being hit by a forklift. It was barreling down the loading dock door. And out of nowhere, I hear, "Get the fuck out of the way." And it's Jake Berry. And that was my first real look at what live touring was about.
Isn't that just how Jake says hello then?
Yeah. So, I was scared shitless. I'm wearing a white t-shirt. He's barreling at me, screaming and yelling. And as he walks by, he says, and get a fucking black t-shirt. So that was day one of Rolling Stones. That was day one of Crew. And we worked 4 months, and that was the best time of my life.
Not a bad way to get in with Jake Berry, getting the black t-shirt and getting the fuck out of his way. Good advice right at the beginning of the podcast from you. You moved up all the way to the top. You were the president of Cole's company for a while.
Well, yeah, and it took a long time. Listen, I went back to, after Licks 2003, I went back to McGill, Montreal to finish university, and then was hired by Norman Perry and Michael to work for Anthill Trading for the entire Bigger Bang tour. So that was 2005, 2006 into 7. It ran, 2 years, 150 shows, grossed $500 million. Dale Sursketh was, Opie was the production manager. Michael was obviously the producer and promoter of the tour. Steve Howard ran a lot of the production for the CPI side. And I saw the glimpse of what I wanted to do. It was like learning everything from the ground up was amazing, but I was so attracted to the business side of it, the numbers side of it, the promoter and producer side of it. So in 2007, once the tour ended, I applied for a job at CPI. And that was incredible. I arrived on day one. I worked for Craig Snyderman and Mark Norman, both Concert West guys working for Meglin. Met the most amazing group of people. Mike Luba was there. John Harper was there. Patty Skase was there. Mike Ferloni, who works for Dainty, was there. And all these guys taught me a ton of the business. I was sort of the proverbial sponge. I sat with the most influential and pioneers of the rock and roll touring business and learned an absolute ton. And it was there that I got to meet my future partner, who ended up being one of sort of a lifelong friend, Jonathan Linden, who was Michael's sort of business and legal advisor. He provided a perspective that none of the other guys really did. He came from an MBA, JD MBA. And so getting to know him was great. And 12 years, he's now the co-president with me running around Room Live.
Working on such a massive scale, when you're talking about working for Michael Cole, the world, literally, he's a global promoter. Massive volume, repetitive number of shows. Just get good by volume over time? Is it just you're doing so much of it, you're learning so quickly, you're just picking up how to get that good just based on the cycle of how much you're doing?
Me?
You. He already knew how to do it.
Yeah.
He's fucking Michael Cole. We already know that.
Yeah. Needs no introduction. In terms of the volume, I think it's more the people that you work with. Like, Michael Cole and Steve Howard and Norman Perry. These guys aren't the easiest people to work for. They're hard. They demand the best from their staff and the people that report to them. And it makes you better. It made me so much better. The skill set that I've pulled out of, the businessman from Michael, who he truly is a genuine businessman, impresario, but knows numbers and deals and structures and can look at a show and understand exactly what to do better than anyone. And if you look at Steve Howard, he's very structured and methodical. It's also very technical. He builds models and he knows how to analyze and build production. And, I liked that. Those two guys were by far the two most influential people of my career.
Okay, so you're working for a company that's in the live event space, but when Michael had left Live Nation, they basically had worked out a deal that he wouldn't be doing music shows for the most part. There were a couple exceptions. But for the most part, he was going to be doing entertainment that was outside the musical. He wasn't going to be competing with Live Nation, the company that he ran for so long. So you work for an event company that is focused on other things, and that brings you to different parts of the world. Yo Gabba Gabba turns out to be one of the hottest properties in the history of kid shows touring. And you're in the center of that. How did that come to be?
Well, that's all Mike Luba. I think it was his idea to go to it. I think he obviously saw what his kids are watching and saw the power of that brand and went after it and brought a rock and roll touring feel to that actual kid show. And so they had the celebrity.
So if Mike Luba didn't have kids, there would be no Yo Gabba Gabba tour for Cole, you think?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. He
might have gotten stoned and watched it anyway.
He was the one who brought it to the table and pushed that along and made sure that he phoned his promoter network to buy in on it. As you know how important that is. He was instrumental in Yo Gabba Gabba Live.
Yeah, I can absolutely say as part of that promoter network, I don't think I'd ever thought about promoting a family show until Michael Luba called me and said, "You're doing family shows with me."
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know how to do that. He's like, we're going to teach you. And he did. And it's become a very good part of my business.
Yeah, S2BN was interesting in that regard. As you said, it was an offshoot of Live Nation where there was this non-compete. And that forced us into non-traditional touring. That was family shows and kids shows and exhibitions. We did Bodies, which was one of the biggest exhibitions of all time. We promoted 45 body shows around the world. It was.
How do you do a meet and greet for that?
Yeah, there's no meet and greets for that. There was the sensational one, which was like the German guy, and then there was obviously the one that we did, which is very academic and educational, and the attendance numbers were insane, right? We were doing 500,000 people a year in New York City.
You're selling people what's already inside them.
Yeah, exactly.
So you find different ways to get people to come see events, and I think we're all now running to that. Like, hey, what's the next thing? How can we sell things continuously without having to load in and load out? Exhibition market is a good idea. The theater market's a good idea. The family show market's a good idea. You were there early. You were there often. You left Michael's business to spring into your own thing.
Yeah, I left in June of 2016, so 3 years ago. Working for Michael was one of the best, if not the best experience of my life. Obviously, he's one of the most successful and influential people in my professional career. You know, it was a decade working for him. But, you know, I got to the point where I was sort of sitting there at his desk day in, day out and thinking, I would love just to try my hand at doing this myself. You know, I'd sat in this chair across from him for hours a day. And I sat there with my partner now, Jonathan Linden. And I remember thinking to myself, the most amazing people have been in this position, right? Arthur Fogel, John Meglin, Michael Rapino. They've all learned from Michael Cole. And they all at some point jumped away from him and created something new.
You gotta leave the nest.
Yeah. And what they've all created and done has been incredible.
Do you feel the pressure of like having to live up to some of...
No, I don't feel the pressure. I'm doing my own thing. I love it. I have a great team around me. We've got a good company. We're building a good brand. We like the product that we're doing. We're like the people that we're working with. And so, yeah, so I left Michael in 16, spent some time with my young kids and then launched Round Room really in September of 2016.
Okay. And PJ Masks kind of happened in the last couple of years and you wound up being able to license that and take that out. How did that come together for you?
So that's a great one. Similar to what we were talking about earlier with Luba and Gaba, I was watching my kids, or my oldest daughter, who's 5 now. I was watching her, when she was 2, watch PJ Masks and thinking this is an incredible brand. At the same time, Jonathan, my now partner, who was working for Jerry Harris and PRG, phoned me and said, you got to go talk to these guys at E1. They've got some amazing brands. I know the guy. Let me set up a meeting for you. So I went in there to E1, pitched them on everything that we had done. Gaba, Rudolph, Alvin and the Chipmunks, all the kids and family shows, and said to them, we want to be your new producers for PJ Masks. And they said, we're not ready in the brand. And we said, well, let us take on the license now. Let us finance and build the show. It will be ready in a year and 2 months, and we'll launch in fall of 17. And they accepted.
That's toured the world and certainly North America to great success. You've also been involved with some really creative pairings. You ran around Oprah Winfrey.
Yeah.
Al Pacino.
Yeah.
You worked with Marvel to create an event.
Yeah.
Massive brands, Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
The Rolling Stones, obviously, their exhibit show. And then now Baby Shark's Lot.
Yeah. So, we're building Round Room to be a serious player in the kids' theatrical world and family touring world. PJ Masks being the sort of big brand, but we have aligned ourselves quite well with a lot of these producers for kids content. And so we've got a lot in the pipeline, including Baby Shark Live, which we'll launch this fall, tour the world with.
When you're thinking about when you're breaking something and where you're putting it out and timing, where do you start with that?
Well, it has to start in North America for us. It's our own backyard. It's the easiest way to produce a show, costs-wise, creative branding, and having full control over it. But then it's partners. We've aligned ourselves nicely with over the years, whether it's a great partner in Australia, in Asia, UK partners. We have promoters and producers, local producers, that will take on the show for those territories that we've licensed out.
I've always been a fan of having relationships with producers that we work with, and whether it's a heated argument back in our days when you worked for Cole, or whether it's more like sounded arguments as we've both matured in the past years. Yeah. I've always found it interesting that you and me have always been able to get on the phone and figure out what the best thing with the act was, and have those conversations of, is it 2 shows, or is it 1+1, or should it be a weekend, or what should the ticket price be, or what should the gale be, and how does that work? And you get into the nuance of those deals. and the back and forth and figuring it out. It's always been something I've always kind of appreciated, is pick up the phone, work through the deal, figure out how we get there.
Yeah. I mean, it's important to us. Listen, it's really important for us that everyone's making money. You know, the worst thing we can do is a one-sided deal where we're walking away because you'll never do a deal with me again. You know, me and you can sit down and find a way for us both to make up maybe on our side a little less money and you make a little bit more. We have a way that builds a relationship, because the promoters who are buying the content that we're producing are the lifeline to our shows, right? We have no ability to go in and four-wall in Seattle and Tacoma and Portland, and you have the ability to operate, to produce, promote, and run those markets. And so having you on side and having this network of both independents, which you once were, and now the bigger network, obviously, with the Live Nations and AEGs, you know, it's critical for us.
Now, when you're thinking about touring, are you worried about the number of brands that are on the road simultaneously now? Because the traffic is insane. It's like country doesn't have this much competition.
Yeah.
Between the shows that Feld has out on any given cycle, between, you know, the Ice-Capades and Disney and what have you, on top of all of the other brands that are constantly on the road, whether it's Paw Patrol or anything else, at any given moment, you got Jonathan Shake's got 3 tours out.
Yeah.
There is just so much in the marketplace. Does that concern you when you're routing a tour?
Of course. But, you know, luckily the kids' theatrical business is now run by sort of 3, maybe 4 producers, putting Feld aside because they're obviously focusing more on the arena touring. But Jonathan Shank being one of few, and Round Room being another, and obviously Eric Grilly and V-Star and
the Mills guys, obviously.
And the Mills guys are doing a little bit, but Eric Grilly, V-Star, and Jonathan Shank, Red Light are the 2 biggest competitors we have. The good thing for us is I go for dinner with Eric whenever he's in town, and I go for dinner with or lunch with Jonathan when I'm in LA. And
sushi, obviously.
Yeah, we have a good relationship, meaning that we are able to plan accordingly.
So when are we finally going to see one of these Lollapaloozas touring festivals with Peppa and put them all together? Play the amphitheaters.
I don't know if we can charge that much for a 3-year-old preschooler to go see a show, but I think people are starting to do that. Nick Jr. is doing a compilation show. And
well, it would be a little interesting, too, because length of shows for the attention span of a child is a thing, right?
Yeah, we're short. We're 35 minutes an act, so we're not much longer than 70 plus an intermission.
Right, 35 on each side.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to have that intermission because that merch sale cranks in the middle.
Hey, listen, $8, $9 a head. It's not bad.
Fucking A, brother. We got to rephrase these deals so I get some of that merch. Okay, so you're in a whole bunch of different spaces going in a whole bunch of different directions, and what you've built to get yourself here is pretty amazing. Your first few years out of the gate, having a couple of real brands on that level to really set you up nicely for the future.
Yeah, I think when we started, really September 16, we knew what we wanted to do. We wanted to take a shot at the kids' theatrical and a shot at exhibitions. Those were the easiest sort of platforms to get into. You know, obviously concerts were not something that we're interested in producing for obvious reasons. But right out of the gate, we acquired the license for PJ Masks Live. We did a deal with Ticketek Entertainment Group out of Australia to be the North American producer for the Rolling Stones exhibition. So those 2 key brands were really the driving force into developing Round Room into, a leader in the exhibition space and a leader in the kid space.
Right, because if you're able to live up to the standards of the Rolling Stones, that's a calling card you can hang your hat on.
Yeah, it was. We had a lot of traffic at the show, and, a lot of opportunities came from that, and we're building out that platform to be a serious player.
All right, so let's talk about some of the advice for some of the guys coming up behind you in the business. What can you say for longevity and future in building a career? Have a black t-shirt? Get the fuck out of the way?
Yeah, wear a black t-shirt if you're on the road with Jake Berry. The biggest thing for us is content, whether it's a kid's show, whether it's something for an exhibition. Content is critical for the success. I am a key believer that it is the creative that is the most successful, that is the driving force for success.
What's the goal for your company, the way you see it at the moment?
Yeah, I think for us, it's to accelerate our growth in as I told you, both the verticals that we've discussed. Consolidating those industries would be the biggest aspiration right now for the next half decade. And we want to get into Broadway theater and at some point maybe test our hand at the old concert promoting.
Right, because you didn't ever sign a non-compete with Live Nation.
I don't think they knew who I was.
Thank you so much for taking time and talking to us on Promoter 101, Stephen.
Thank you very much for having me.
Stephen, or Mr. Shaw, to the people that know him and fear him most, is totally a mover and shaker. We are so lucky to have him here on Promoter 101.
101.
Hey, it's Mary Hilliard-Harrington.
Henry Glasscock, a.k.a. Crystal Pistol.
Scott Scoville.
Darren Lashinsky.
David Kells. Ross Schilling.
You're listening to
Promoter 101.
Quote of the week comes to us from Ronnie Reagan.
Ronnie Reagan.
Ronnie.
Hey.
There are no great limits to growth because there are no limits on human intelligence, imagination, and wonder. The king of the jelly beans and the great president of the United States, Ronald Reagan, got it right, I think.
King of the jelly beans.
King of the jelly beans. He loves
Lord of the
jelly beans.
candy, king of the jelly beans.
This is Angela Smith. I work for Emporium Presents, and this is Promoter 101.
That'll do it. Episode 162 of Promoter 101 in the bag. This ends our broadcast day, but don't stop there. We want to hear from you. Email us at steiny@promoter101.net. If you miss us and you just want to catch up.
We'll return this Thursday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that's midnight over in London town.
And thank you to everyone who tuned into this podcast today for listening. Thank you to our lovely guests. We had from the Round Room, Stephen Shaw, and from AEG Presents, Rich Schaefer, who, Dan, he's going to be back in the podcast on Thursday. So let's make sure that everybody tunes in.
It'd be a good thing. But until then, we're wishing you sold-out shows for the week to come.
Cheers, and call your mother.
I'm Amy Morrison. I work at Concerts West, AEG Presents, and I'm on Promoter 101.
Ba-da-ba-ba, ba-da.